Officer Mike Davis drove his police car slowly down Pine Street on a warm Tuesday afternoon. It was his regular patrol route, and nothing unusual ever happened here. The small town of Riverdale was mostly quiet, with friendly people who waved at him as he passed by. Mike was 38 years old with 10 years on the police force. He had kind blue eyes and always tried to help people in his community. Today was just another normal day, or so he thought. As he turned the corner near the park, he noticed a young woman walking on the sidewalk. Something about her caught his attention. She moved slowly, almost like she was having trouble walking straight. Her clothes, a simple t-shirt and jeans, looked too big for her thin frame. Mike slowed his car and watched her for a moment. The girl looked around 17 or 18 years old. Her dark hair was messy, and even from a distance, you could see how pale her face was. She kept looking behind her, as if afraid someone was following her. Something's not right, Mike said to himself. He pulled his car over and stepped out. "Miss, are you okay?" he called, walking toward her slowly so he wouldn't frighten her. The girl turned toward his voice. Her eyes were wide with fear. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but no words came out. Instead, she took one stumbling step forward and reached out her hand. Mike moved faster now. "I'm Officer Davis. I can help you," he said in a calm voice. When he was just 3 feet away, the girl's eyes rolled back in her head. Her knees buckled, and she fell forward. Mike rushed forward and caught her before she hit the ground. "Miss, can you hear me?" Mike asked, lowering her gently to the sidewalk. She was so light in his arms, but she hardly weighed anything at all. Her skin felt cold and clammy. Mike quickly checked her pulse. It was there, but weak and too fast. He grabbed his radio from his belt. "This is Officer Davis. I need an ambulance at Pine and Maple. I have an unconscious young female, approximately 17 years old," he said urgently. While waiting for the ambulance, Mike tried to make the girl more comfortable. He took off his jacket and placed it under her head. He looked in her pockets for ID, but found nothing. No wallet, no phone, nothing that could tell them who she was. The girl's breathing was shallow. Up close, Mike could see dark circles under her eyes and what looked like old bruises on her wrists. Her clothes were clean but worn, and she had no shoes, just dirty socks. "What happened to you?" Mike whispered, though he knew she couldn't answer. People from nearby shops came out to see what was happening. Mike asked if anyone recognized the girl, but no one did. "Never seen her before," said Mrs. Wilson from the bakery. "Poor thing looks half-starved." The ambulance arrived 7 minutes later. As the paramedics worked, checking her vital signs and putting her on a stretcher, Mike felt a strange connection to this mystery girl. In his years as a police officer, he had helped many people, but something about this girl's situation touched him deeply. "I'm going to follow you to the hospital," Mike told the paramedics as they loaded her into the ambulance. On the drive to Riverdale General Hospital, Mike couldn't stop thinking about the girl. Who was she? Where had she come from? And what had happened that left her in such a terrible condition? He had a feeling that this was just the beginning of a story that would change many lives, including his own. The ambulance raced through the streets of Riverdale with sirens blaring. Officer Mike Davis followed close behind in his police car. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly as he thought about the mysterious girl. In his 15 years as a police officer, he had seen many strange things, but something about this case felt different. At Riverdale General Hospital, doctors and nurses rushed the girl into the emergency room. Mike parked his car and hurried inside. The bright lights and antiseptic smell of the hospital hit him as he approached the front desk. "I'm Officer Davis," he said, showing his badge. "I brought in the young woman who collapsed on Pine Street." The nurse at the desk nodded. "Dr. Patel is with her now. Please wait in the sitting area, and someone will update you soon." Mike sat down but couldn't relax. He called the station to report what had happened. "Chief, I found an unidentified teenage girl who collapsed on Pine Street. I'm at the hospital now. She had no ID, and no one in the area recognized her." "Any signs of drug use?" Chief Wilson asked over the phone. "I didn't see any," Mike replied, "but she's severely underweight and has marks on her wrists that look like she might have been tied up." There was a pause on the other end. "Take photos if the doctor permits. I'll check missing persons reports. Keep me updated." After hanging up, Mike waited for nearly an hour. He watched doctors and nurses rush past, Families come and go with various levels of worry on their faces. Finally, a doctor in blue scrubs approached him. "Officer Davis, I'm Dr. Amit Patel." Mike stood quickly. "How is she?" Dr. Patel gestured for Mike to follow him to a quieter corner. "The girl is stable now, but her condition is serious. She's suffering from severe malnutrition and dehydration. Her body temperature was dangerously low when she came in. Do you know what caused her to faint? Her body is shutting down from lack of proper food and water. But that's not all." Dr. Patel's face grew more serious. "We found needle marks on her arms that suggest someone has been giving her injections, possibly sedatives, and there are rope burns on her wrists and ankles." Mike felt his stomach tighten. "You're saying someone did this to her?" Dr. Patel nodded grimly. "Officer Davis, this girl has been held captive. The marks on her body tell a clear story. Some of the wounds are fresh, others are healing. This has been happening for some time." "How long?" "Based on her condition, I'd estimate months, maybe longer." The doctor paused, his voice dropping lower. "There's more. We found a strange symbol tattooed on her shoulder. It looks new and poorly done, like an amateur did it. It's a snake eating its own tail." Mike felt a chill run through him. 2 years ago, there had been a case in the next county over. A girl had escaped from captivity with the same tattoo. The case was never solved, and the person responsible was never caught. "Is she awake? Can I talk to her?" Mike asked urgently. "She's drifting in and out of consciousness. We've given her fluids and nutrients, but her body is very weak. You can see her, but I doubt she'll be able to tell you much today." Mike followed Dr. Patel to a small room where the girl lay in a hospital bed. She looked even smaller and more fragile under the bright lights, with tubes and wires connected to her thin arms. Her dark hair was spread across the pillow, making her pale face stand out starkly. As Mike approached the bed, the girl's eyes fluttered open. For a brief moment, she looked directly at him with deep brown eyes filled with fear. "You're safe now," Mike said softly. "I promise." Her lips moved slightly, trying to form words. Mike leaned closer to hear. "Others," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "There are others." Then her eyes closed again, leaving Mike standing there with a cold feeling of dread spreading through his chest. "Others. There are others." The girl's whispered words echoed in Officer Mike Davis's mind as he stood in the hospital hallway. He had just stepped out of her room to call Chief Wilson with this new information. "She said there are others, Chief. I think we're looking at something bigger than a single kidnapping," Mike said into his phone, keeping his voice low. "I'll contact the FBI," Chief Wilson replied. "In the meantime, I need you to stay with her. She might be our only link to finding these other victims." After ending the call, Mike returned to the girl's room. A nurse was checking the IV bags and monitors. "Has she said anything else?" Mike asked. The nurse shook her head. "Nothing. But Dr. Patel ordered some tests. We're still trying to identify her." Mike nodded and took a seat in the chair beside the bed. The girl looked so young and vulnerable lying there. Who was she? Where had she come from? And most importantly, who had done this to her? Around 6 p.m., Dr. Patel returned with a folder in his hands and a worried look on his face. "Officer Davis, can I speak with you outside?" In the hallway, Dr. Patel opened the folder. "We got the blood test results back. There are high levels of a powerful sedative in her system, the kind that's not commonly available to the public. Someone with medical knowledge would have access to it." Mike frowned. "A doctor? A nurse? Or someone who works in a hospital pharmacy or has connections to get prescription drugs illegally?" Dr. Patel explained. "There's something else. We found a small metal object embedded under the skin on her shoulder. It's some kind of tracking device." Mike's eyes widened. "A tracking device? Like someone was monitoring her movements?" "Exactly. Whoever had her didn't want to lose track of her. I've removed it, but..." Dr. Patel hesitated. "If someone was tracking her, they might know she's here." The thought sent a chill through Mike. "I need to call for additional security right away." Just as Mike reached for his phone, a commotion erupted at the end of the hallway. A tall man in a hospital maintenance uniform was arguing with a nurse at the desk. Something about him caught Mike's attention, the way his eyes kept darting around, how his hand stayed in his pocket. "Wait here," Mike told Dr. Patel, and walked toward the front desk. The man saw Mike approaching and suddenly turned away, walking quickly toward the exit. "Sir, police, I need to speak with you," Mike called out. The man broke into a run. Mike chased after him, pushing past confused visitors and hospital staff. The man crashed through the emergency exit doors, setting off an alarm. Outside in the parking lot, Mike saw the man heading for a black van. "Stop! Police!" he shouted, drawing his gun. The man paused for a split second, looked back at Mike, then reached into his jacket. Mike saw the glint of metal. "Drop your weapon," Mike yelled, taking cover behind a parked car. Instead of obeying, the man fired a shot that pinged off the car near Mike's head. Mike returned fire, hitting the man in the leg. He fell to the ground, still clutching his gun. Mike approached carefully, kicked the weapon away, and handcuffed the man. "Who are you? Why are you here?" The man said nothing, his face twisted with pain and anger. Looking more closely at him, Mike noticed something on the man's neck, partially hidden by his collar, the edge of a tattoo. With a sense of dread, Mike pulled the collar down slightly to reveal a familiar image: a snake eating its own tail. "You're involved with the girl upstairs, aren't you?" Mike demanded. "How many others are there? Where are you keeping them?" The man spat on the ground. "You have no idea what you're getting into, cop." As backup police cars arrived with sirens wailing, Mike felt his determination grow stronger. This was bigger than he had imagined. A girl with a snake tattoo, a man with the same mark coming to find her, and somewhere out there, other victims waiting to be rescued. Back in the hospital, the girl opened her eyes again, unaware of the confrontation that had just taken place. But for the first time since Mike had found her, there was something new in her expression, a tiny spark of hope. 2 police officers stood guard outside the girl's hospital room. Inside, Mike sat next to her bed, watching her sleep. The events of the past few hours had left him shaken. The man with the snake tattoo was now in custody, being treated for his gunshot wound under police guard in another part of the hospital. Chief Wilson entered the room quietly. "How is she doing?" "Still sleeping," Mike replied. "The doctors say her body needs time to recover." The chief nodded and handed Mike a file. "We got a hit on her fingerprints. Her name is Emma Collins. She's 17 years old and was reported missing 8 months ago from Lakeside, about 60 miles from here." Mike opened the file and saw a school photo of Emma. She was smiling, with healthy cheeks and bright eyes. The difference between that image and the thin, pale girl in the hospital bed made his heart ache. "Her parents are on their way," Chief Wilson continued. "What about the man you caught?" "He refuses to talk. All we know is that his ID says his name is Robert Harris. It's probably fake." The chief lowered his voice. "The FBI arrived. They're questioning Harris now. They think this might be connected to other missing persons cases across 3 states. Mike's phone buzzed. It was a text from Dr. Patel. "Emma is waking up. Coming to her room now." A few minutes later, Dr. Patel entered and checked Emma's vital signs. Her eyes fluttered open, more alert than before. "Hello, Emma," Dr. Patel said gently. "You're in the hospital. You're safe." Emma's eyes darted around the room, fixing on Mike. Recognition flickered across her face. You helped me," she whispered. Mike moved closer. "Yes, I'm Officer Davis, Mike Davis. You collapsed on the street, and I brought you here." "Did he find me?" Fear filled her voice. "We caught a man who came looking for you," Mike said. "He can't hurt you now." Emma closed her eyes briefly, relief washing over her face. When she opened them again, tears were streaming down her cheeks. "I escaped yesterday," she said, her voice growing stronger. "I ran all night. I didn't know where I was." "Emma," Mike said carefully, "you told me there were others. Can you tell us more about that?" She nodded slowly. "There were 5 of us. In a basement. Girls like me. He called us his collection." Mike felt sick, but kept his expression calm. "Do you know where this basement is?" "We were in an old house. In the woods. I heard train sounds sometimes." Emma's hands trembled. "The others? Lisa, Tanya, Jessie, and Mia. They're still there. He put these marks on us." She touched her shoulder where the snake tattoo had been. Dr. Patel stepped in. "That's enough for now. She needs rest." Just then, a commotion erupted in the hallway. A woman's voice cried out, "Where is she? Where's my daughter?" The door burst open, and a couple rushed in. The woman's face was tear-streaked, and the man looked as if he hadn't slept in days. "Emma," the woman sobbed, running to the bed. "Mom, Dad." Emma's voice broke as her parents embraced her carefully, mindful of the IV lines. Mike stepped back, giving the family space for their reunion. Watching them, he felt both joy and determination. One girl had been saved, but 4 others were still out there. Chief Wilson touched Mike's arm. The FBI found Harris's van in the parking lot. There were maps, photos of young women, and syringes. They'd also found a key with the number 42 on it. "A storage unit, maybe?" Mike suggested. "They're checking facilities now. Mike, this is becoming a federal case, but they want you involved since Emma trusts you." Mike nodded, watching as Emma's father gently stroked his daughter's hair, whispering words of comfort. The scene strengthened Mike's resolve. "We need to find those other girls," he said quietly, "and we need to do it fast." Outside the hospital room, FBI agents were already setting up a command center. Time was running out for the other victims, but now they had something they didn't have before, a survivor who could lead them to the monster's lair. And Emma, despite her weakness, had a fierce light in her eyes that told Mike she was ready to help. The hospital room was crowded the next morning. Emma sat propped up in bed, looking stronger after a night of rest and proper care. Her parents sat beside her, holding her hands. Across from them, Mike stood with 2 FBI agents, Agent Lydia Carter and Agent Marcus Woods. "Emma, I know this is difficult," Agent Carter said gently, "but anything you can tell us about where you were held could help save the other girls." Emma took a deep breath. It was an old farmhouse, 2 stories with peeling blue paint. "We were kept in the basement. There were 5 small rooms with locks on the outside." "Do you remember how you got there?" Agent Woods asked. "Any landmarks or signs?" Emma closed her eyes, trying to remember. "When he took me, I was unconscious most of the drive. But when I escaped, I ran through woods for a long time. Then I crossed train tracks. I followed them until I reached the town." Mike spread out a map of the area. "The tracks that run near where I found you go north for about 20 miles, then branch in 3 directions." Emma studied the map carefully. There was a bridge. A metal bridge over a river. I crossed it on the tracks. Agent Woods pointed to a spot on the map. "That narrows it down to this area. There are several old farms here." "Wait," Emma said suddenly. "I remember something else. At night, I could hear a loud horn sometimes, like a factory or something." Mike looked up. "The lumber mill at Henderson Creek has a horn that blows at the end of each shift. You can hear it for miles." The FBI agents exchanged glances. "That helps a lot," Agent Carter said. "We'll organize search teams immediately." Mike's phone rang. It was the station. "Officer Davis, we've identified the suspect. His real name is Thomas Blackwood. He worked as an orderly at hospitals in 3 different states. He was fired from his last job for stealing medication." "The same kind found in Emma's system?" Mike asked. "Exactly. And get this, he owns property near Henderson Creek, a farm that belonged to his grandfather." Mike's heart raced as he relayed this information to the agents. They immediately called for backup. "I'm going with you," Mike insisted. Agent Wood started to object, but Agent Carter nodded. "He knows the local area better than we do." Emma reached out and grabbed Mike's hand. "Be careful. He has help." "What do you mean?" Mike asked. "His brother," Emma said quietly. "He comes sometimes. He's the one who brings food and medicine. He's quieter, but just as dangerous." This new information added urgency to their mission. As Mike prepared to leave with the FBI team, Emma's mother stopped him. "Thank you," she said, tears in her eyes. "If you hadn't noticed her on the street." Mike nodded, unable to find the right words. The weight of responsibility pressed on him. 4 more girls needed to be found alive. Within an hour, a convoy of vehicles was heading toward Henderson Creek. Mike rode with Agent Carter, studying satellite images of the area on her tablet. "There," he pointed to a blue farmhouse partially hidden by trees, about half a mile from the train tracks. "That matches Emma's description." As they got closer to the area, Agent Carter ordered radio silence. The vehicles stopped a mile from the target, and officers continued on foot through the woods. Mike moved quietly with the team, his police training kicking in. The old farmhouse came into view. Weathered blue paint, broken windows, an abandoned truck in the yard. It looked deserted, but Mike knew appearances could be deceiving. Agent Woods organized the team into position, surrounding the house. Mike was paired with Agent Carter, approaching from the back where cellar doors likely led to the basement. Through his earpiece, Mike heard the command, "On my mark. 3, 2, 1. Go." Teams rushed the house from all sides. Mike and Agent Carter headed for the cellar doors, weapons drawn. The old wooden doors were secured with a heavy chain and padlock. "Stand back," Agent Carter whispered, pulling out bolt cutters. The chain fell away with a clang that seemed too loud in the quiet woods. Mike pulled open the doors, revealing stone steps leading down into darkness. From somewhere below came the faint sound of crying. The 4 missing girls were down there. Mike was sure of it. And perhaps Thomas Blackwood's brother was too. Taking a deep breath, Mike switched on his flashlight and began the descent into the darkness, praying they weren't too late. The basement air was cold and damp. Mike and Agent Carter moved carefully down the stone steps, their flashlight beams cutting through the darkness. The crying sound grew louder, a soft, hopeless sobbing that made Mike's skin crawl. "FBI, we're here to help," Agent Carter called out as they reached the bottom of the stairs. The crying stopped instantly. Then a small voice whispered, "Is this another trick?" Mike's heart pounded as they moved forward into a narrow hallway. 5 doors lined one side, small rooms like cells, just as Emma had described. Each door had a heavy padlock. "We're really here to help," Mike said, keeping his voice gentle. "Emma is safe. She told us where to find you." A gasp came from behind one of the doors. "Emma escaped? She's really okay?" "Yes," Mike answered, approaching the first door. Through a small barred window, he saw a young woman with tangled blonde hair. Her face was thin and pale, much like Emma's had been. "I'm Lisa," she said, tears running down her face. "Please get us out of here before he comes back." Agent Carter radioed for the bolt cutters while Mike checked the other rooms. In each one, he found a terrified young woman. Tanya, Jessie, and Mia, just as Emma had named them. Each girl had the same snake tattoo on her shoulder. The team worked quickly to cut the locks. As each girl was freed, medical personnel wrapped them in blankets and guided them outside. They were all weak and malnourished, but alive. "Where is he?" Mike asked Lisa as she leaned on his arm, climbing the stairs. "He left yesterday when he discovered Emma was gone," she explained. He was so angry. He said he was going to find her and bring her back. "And his brother?" Lisa shuddered. "He went to get more medicine. They said they'd be back today." Mike helped Lisa outside, where ambulances waited. The fresh air and sunlight made her squint and cover her eyes. The other girls had similar reactions, having been kept in darkness for so long. As Lisa was being helped into an ambulance, she suddenly grabbed Mike's arm. "There's another room," she whispered. "In the back of the basement. I heard noises from there sometimes." Mike immediately alerted Agent Carter, who organized a team to check. They returned to the basement, searching more carefully. Behind a shelving unit, they found a hidden door. "Federal agents, open up," Agent Carter shouted. When no response came, they forced the door open. Inside, they found a room filled with computer equipment, cameras, and several hard drives. On the wall hung photos of the girls, along with pictures of other young women Mike didn't recognize. "This is worse than we thought," Agent Carter said grimly. "This wasn't just kidnapping. They were running some kind of operation online." The tech team began collecting evidence while Mike examined the photos on the wall. Among them, he spotted something that made his blood run cold. A photo of Emma walking to her school bus, taken months before her kidnapping. The Blackwood brothers had been stalking her. Mike's radio crackled. "All units be advised. We have a vehicle approaching the property. Blue pickup truck, 2 occupants." "That's them," Mike said urgently. "The Blackwood brothers." Outside, officers took cover, weapons ready. The blue truck turned into the long driveway, then stopped suddenly when the driver spotted the police vehicles. "They're trying to run," someone shouted as the truck reversed quickly. 2 police cars moved to block the driveway. The truck swerved off the road, crashing through the fence into the field beyond. It didn't get far before getting stuck in the mud. Mike ran toward the scene as officers surrounded the truck, ordering the occupants out. The driver, a man Mike recognized as Thomas Blackwood's brother from his photos, surrendered immediately, hands in the air. But Thomas Blackwood wasn't giving up. He burst from the passenger side with a gun in his hand. "Drop your weapon," multiple officers shouted. For a terrible moment, time seemed to slow down. Thomas looked around wildly, his eyes filled with rage. Then he spotted Mike and raised his gun. 3 officers fired at once. Thomas Blackwood fell to the ground, the gun dropping from his hand. As Mike approached the fallen kidnapper, he felt no satisfaction, only relief that the nightmare was over for Emma and the other girls. Justice would be served, and the healing could begin. 2 weeks had passed since the rescue at the Blackwood farmhouse. The story had made national news, with headlines calling it the Snake's Nest case. Mike Davis had become something of a local hero, though he felt uncomfortable with the attention. Today, he sat in a conference room at the police station with Agent Carter, Chief Wilson, and the district attorney. The walls were covered with evidence photos and timelines. On the table lay thick folders containing the case details. "James Blackwood is talking," Agent Carter said, referring to Thomas's brother who had survived the arrest. "He's hoping for a deal, but with the evidence we have, he's looking at multiple life sentences." The district attorney nodded, flipping through a report. "The digital evidence from their computers is damning. They had been doing this for years, in multiple states. We've identified 3 more victims from previous abductions who were eventually released when the brothers moved to a new area." "What about the girls?" Mike asked, the question that had been weighing on his mind since the rescue. Agent Carter's expression softened slightly. "They're all receiving specialized care. Physical recovery will take time, but they're making progress. The psychological healing will be a longer road." Mike thought of Emma, who had shown such courage. He had visited her in the hospital several times before she went home with her parents. She was the reason 5 lives have been saved. "There's something else," Chief Wilson said, sliding a folder toward Mike. "The FBI wants to offer you a position on their human trafficking task force. Your work on this case impressed them." Mike opened the folder, surprised. It contained an official offer letter. Moving to the FBI would mean a promotion, better pay, and a chance to help more victims like Emma and the others. "Think about it," Chief Wilson said. "We'd hate to lose you, but it's a great opportunity." After the meeting, Mike drove to Riverdale General Hospital. He had promised Dr. Patel he would stop by. The doctor had been instrumental in identifying the drugs used by the Blackwoods and had testified at the preliminary hearing. Dr. Patel greeted him in the hospital cafeteria. "Officer Davis, good to see you. How are you holding up?" "Still processing everything," Mike admitted. "Did you see the news about the other victims they identified?" Dr. Patel nodded solemnly. "Some of the nurses and I are organizing a support group for trafficking survivors. We want to make sure what happened to those girls doesn't happen to anyone else." They talked for a while about the case and the community's response. Many people had been shocked that such a terrible crime could happen in their quiet region. Schools were now holding safety workshops, and parents were being more vigilant. As Mike prepared to leave, Dr. Patel handed him an envelope. "This came for you. Emma's mother dropped it off yesterday." Inside the envelope was a handwritten letter and a photo. The photo showed Emma with her family in their backyard. She was still thin, but there was color in her cheeks and a determined look in her eyes. Mike read the letter slowly. "Dear Officer Davis, I wanted to thank you again for saving my life that day. The doctors say if you hadn't found me when you did, I might not have survived. The therapist says writing letters is good for my healing, so here I am writing to you. Some days are hard, I have nightmares, and sometimes I'm afraid to go outside. But then I remember how I escaped, how I fought to stay alive, and I feel stronger. The other girls and I talk on video calls every few days. We're helping each other get through this. Tanya is already speaking at schools about safety and awareness. I hope to be brave enough to do that someday too. Mom says you might join the FBI. I think you should. You notice things others don't, like you noticed me that day on the street when everyone else walked by. Thank you for believing me about the others. Thank you for finding them before it was too late. Emma." Mike carefully folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. The weight of the FBI offer felt different now. Emma was right. He had noticed what others missed, and it had saved lives. As he walked to his car, Mike made his decision. He would accept the FBI position. There were more victims out there, more predators to stop, and more lives to save. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he heard Emma's voice. There are others. 6 months had passed since the day Emma Collins fainted in Officer Mike Davis's arms. The leaves were changing color as Mike packed the last of his belongings into boxes. Tomorrow, he would leave for Quantico to begin his FBI training. His small apartment looked empty now. The walls were bare where his police certificates and family photos had hung. On the kitchen counter stood a single-frame newspaper article with the headline, "Local officer breaks human trafficking ring, saves 5 lives." Mike's phone rang. It was Agent Carter. "All packed and ready?" she asked. "Almost," Mike replied. "Just a few more things to box up." "Good. I wanted to let you know that James Blackwood's trial date is set for January. The prosecutor says all 5 girls have agreed to testify." Mike smiled at this news. "How are they doing?" "Better than expected," Agent Carter said. "They've formed a tight support group. Emma has become quite the advocate. She's speaking at a conference next month about human trafficking awareness." After ending the call, Mike looked at his watch. He had one more stop to make before finishing his packing. An hour later, he parked outside a community center in the next town over. A sign on the door read, "Survivors Support Group." 6:00 p.m. Mike entered quietly and took a seat at the back of the room. At the front, Emma stood at a small podium. Her appearance had changed dramatically over the past months. Her hair was cut in a stylish bob, and she had gained healthy weight. But the biggest change was in her eyes. They shone with purpose and determination. "Some days are still hard," Emma was saying to the group of about 30 people. "I still have nightmares. I still jump when someone approaches me too quickly. But every day gets a little easier." Mike watched as she confidently addressed the group, which included the other 4 rescued girls, as well as survivors from other cases and family members learning how to help their loved ones. "The most important thing I've learned," Emma continued, "is that what happened to us doesn't define who we are. We are not victims, we are survivors, and our stories can help protect others." After the meeting, people gathered in small groups, talking and supporting each other. Mike approached Emma, who broke into a wide smile when she saw him. "Officer Davis, you came." She gave him a quick hug. "I wouldn't miss it," Mike said. "And please, call me Mike. I'm not your officer anymore." "That's right. You're FBI now," Emma said proudly. "When do you leave?" "Tomorrow morning," Mike replied. "I wanted to say goodbye and see how you were doing. Your speech was amazing." Emma's mother joined them, shaking Mike's hand warmly. "We can never thank you enough," she said. "Emma is helping so many people now." "Actually," Emma said, suddenly looking nervous, "I have some news. I've decided what I want to do after I finish high school next year." "What's that?" Mike asked. "I want to work in law enforcement," Emma said. "Maybe as a victim advocate, or even an agent someday. I want to help find others, like you found me." Mike felt a surge of pride. The scared girl he had caught in his arms 6 months ago was now planning a future helping others. It was the best possible outcome he could have imagined. As they walked to the parking lot, Emma handed Mike a small gift bag. "A going-away present," she explained. Inside was a simple silver keychain with a small shield charm. Engraved on the back were the words, "From noticing what others miss." "I'll keep it with me always," Mike promised, deeply touched by the gesture. As he drove home in the gathering dusk, Mike thought about the incredible journey that had begun with a routine patrol and a girl fainting in his arms. That moment had changed many lives, including his own. Tomorrow would bring new challenges at the FBI, new cases, and likely new horrors to face. But tonight, Mike felt a profound sense of peace. He had made a difference. And somewhere out there were people who were alive and healing because he had noticed what others had missed. The road ahead would not be easy, but Mike Davis was ready. And in a way, he would carry Emma and the other survivors with him into every case, every investigation, and every rescue yet to come.